Agronomy is going to be taking us, should I say, into familiarity of what agribusiness is, or should I say it's going to take us in depth, whichever way you want to take it. I know this is going to be relatable to you and I, who are farmers in the house. Hello and welcome to Agronomy on ARCN Television, Mabushi, Abuja, Nigeria. I am Khadija Uluwatoyin. This week, like I said, we'll look at the profitability in the adoption of agronomics practices. Agronomics is a big name. Yes, it just only means agric business. Being a farmer alone does not guarantee you to be a business person. So you can know the nitty-gritty in farming and not know how to, bring the business angle of farming in getting what after you must have, done your cultivation and everything. So today our expert is going to be taking us through what first agronomics is, and then of what importance it is, of course, and then we'll now take live example instances and what should be done in certain cases. As usual on the program, we'll take short video in telling us what agribusiness is, or agronomics as the case may be, and then when we return we'll bring in our guest who is going to be shedding more light in depth into the topic. Stay tuned.
Agronomic practices are the techniques, strategies, and methods used in the cultivation of crops. These include methods of planting, fertilization, pest control, irrigation, and harvest. The goal is to maximize crop yields while minimizing damage to the environment and ensuring the sustainability of the system. Agronomy contributes to food security by developing and promoting sustainable agricultural practices that can increase crop yield and quality while minimizing the use of natural resources and the impact on the environment. Agronomy is also crucial in addressing climate change. Agronomists work to develop methods that would improve the use of soil and increase the production of food and fiber crops. They conduct research on crop rotation, irrigation and drainage, plant breeding, soil classification, soil fertility, weed control, and other areas. Food production can be increased by growing high-yield crops, removing other plants and pests with chemical pesticides, and adding chemical fertilizers to the soil. Other intensive farming practices include keeping animals indoors, often in restricted spaces. Agronomics increases yields, lower production costs, for example, lower seeds, pesticides, or herbicides costs. It improves soil fertility and reduces use of water.
Welcome back. It's the program Agric Economy, and my guest for this week is no other person than Mr. Gabriel Dakulo, who is going to be taking us in depth. This is his field of study, agribusiness. Is going to be taking us in depth into what the profitability is in the adoption of agronomics. Yes, agronomics. And like I said, agronomics that we've heard in the video that just played, it simply means agric business. Yes, how you merge agric and business together. That's the only way you can make money. Yeah, yes. So our guest this morning is no other person than Mr. Gabriel Dakulo. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, like we have said, agronomics is agric and business.
Yes.
In correlation. And so we have farmers that are not business inclined.
Yes.
And we know what effect this can be for them in getting what they ought to get. Some people just do this, come and buy everything in the farm without having the market idea.
Yes.
And the rest of it. So agronomics, how does it differentiate just a farmer from an agronomist?
Yeah, actually, when we are talking of agronomics, we are talking about the economics of agriculture. And it is years back, maybe in centuries ago, that they look at agriculture as for sustainability purposes, for maybe household farming, to feed the family, to help the community, and the rest. And also it is used for show of strength and also show of affluence. If for a man that has a thousand tuber in his band, for example, has the capacity to ask for 4 or 5 wives to be married to him, because the community will see him as somebody that has the capacity. So in those days, agriculture is looked at as to show of wealth, is a sign of wealth because of what you can produce from your farm, not necessarily for the commerce that is attached to agriculture. And that you see that our great grandfathers and forefathers then used to have large families so that they can procreate as much as possible, knowing fully well that they have farmland that they are going to produce to feed those mouths that they are producing. But when we look at agriculture in the context of economics of it, the kind of agriculture that is practiced worldwide now makes it very imperative for every farmer to be able to have an understanding of the economics of agriculture in order to stay in the business for a very long time and also be profitable as well. We have seen farmers that do not have a hand of the agriculture of economics of agriculture over time have gone bankrupt because of not applying the business to their farming practices. And that is why this topic is very important and should be adopted by farmers, both in small-scale farmers and I believe the commercial farmers have an understanding of it. So a farmer that wants to grow needs to have an essential understanding of the business side of his own farming practice as vis-a-vis the crops that is being produced by such farmers.
Okay, when we talk agric business, we see so many farmers these days complain of not being able to repay loans, getting grants yet, and the grants do not turn out to be something because the way they invested the money, let me use that word, didn't turn out the way they in their mind think this will happen. Like I said, some farmers do not understand what the business side of agriculture is. People just tend to go in. For me, I've tried it before. I had just a few layers and I buy food for as high as 6,800 naira. But I realized that every day the chicken don't produce more than one egg. And sometimes maybe I'm at work. Before I get back, they must have, drunk the egg. I don't know what happens to the egg. By the time I get back, at some point I thought snakes were coming into the compound to do that. But one day I just went in just for me to come back. I met the chicken trying to pierce, and it was a wow. I didn't know that usually happen. Ordinarily, maybe I would have put more put more things in place to ensure that once the egg fall, it rolls out of where they are. These are part of the mistakes we do in agribusinesses. What's the correlation?
Yes, it is one thing to have experience in farming, whether it's for farming agricultural products or integrated farming, or poultry, cattle rearing and the rest. But it's another thing to have a firm understanding of how the business is being done. Just the example you cited has happened to so many people and has made them to lose interest in farming of some particular agricultural products or poultry or the rest. One thing I want you to know is that when you are going to start agricultural practices, you don't start based on textbook. You don't start based on hearsay. You don't start based on what people are saying. You start based on understanding those that have been successful in it. And how can you understudy those that have been successful in it? If you are a very big man that wants to start big, for example, or you feel that you are very strong in those in the knowledge of agriculture, you go to where large farms or research institute farms and partner with them. See how they do things. Use 6 months, sometimes a year, to learn the ropes, to be able to know what and what to do at each point in time, to be able to know the cost-cutting measures that need to be put in place, so that you will not be pumping capital and receiving less from it. when you have done a good understudy of someone that is in that particular trade, agricultural practice, then you can now start setting up yours. Now, another mistake that most of us make is that we don't look at the long-term profitability of the agri-business itself. We always look at short-term. And when you look at short-term, at the end of the day, you get discouraged. How do I mean? When you want to go into cocoa planting, for example, if you had understudied the people that are in that business, they will have told you that it's a long-term investment. It doesn't start and end in a year. You can plant cocoa or try to nurture the trees, and it takes you years. It takes you years, 5-10 years, before you start enjoying the benefit of it on the long run. Now, for someone that wants to go into such a venture as cultivating cocoa, for example, in Nigeria, and goes to a bank to go and ask for a loan of 1 year, how is that fellow going to pay back? That is one aspect of it that you have to know. Whatever loan you want to get from a bank must match the produce harvest of what you are planting, or the poultry you are using it for, and the rest. That is one. The second aspect is that for any agricultural business to be profitable in Nigeria that needs support of loan, it must be a single-digit interest rate, because the yield of agricultural profit is marginal, and it's also with issues of climate, low yield, or other factors that can affect the productivity of that particular crop. So it must be low interest rates to the extent that that farmer will be able to meet up with the interest in the obligations of the loan, even if it comes up to record a lower yield than anticipated. The third aspect of it is ways of eradicating waste. You discover that some farm, for example, that is even peculiar to poultry. Yes, we have poultry products in the market. You put a very integrated practice for poultry products, but there are also products of that poultry that can be productive for you as a farmer, as a poultry farmer. For example, their poo is a fertilizer that can be sold. 2, when you have effectively used the layers or the cockerels, you can sell them at a very good rate if they are well fed. But one thing that is very, very important is that we need to identify the major cost factor of that your farming practice. For example, the major cost factor of poultry business is the feed and the immunization that they get. So when you are able to identify it and you are able to work around it to ensure that the cost does not completely erode your profitability, your long-term profitability, then you will be able to break even in poultry. How can you do that when it comes to feed? We all know that the major ingredient of feed production for poultry is corn. You need to be able to ensure that you are able to have access to cheap corn. It's either you plant your own in your farm, get a farm and plant your corn, depending on the expanse of your business in poultry, or you buy from sources that are cheap. You need to get the other ingredients that you need to mix it and produce your feed yourself. It is those that produce their feed themselves that can adequately be able to feed their poultry products and also be able to make profit from it. Secondly, when we are talking of the veterinary aspect of poultry, you need not only to get a vet doctor, but to get an effective one that will not cost you to be losing money, because some of them bring and buy expensive drugs that at the end of the day you will not see the effect on the poultry. So why I'm giving this example of poultry is what I've gone through before, I've experienced it before. So when you go into a farming venture of poultry, for example, you identify the key cost centers, and at ab initio look for ways and means to mitigate the challenges that comes from those key cost centers. Because you also know that in the business of poultry, there is no guarantee that when you start rearing the chicks, 100% of them are going to make it to maturity. So you must factor that into what you are doing, and that is why you must ensure that you have control of the feed and also the medicine that they take. Now, when it comes to the other aspect of weather conditions and security of the farmland, that is another issue that must be looked into. Where are you siting the farm? Where actually is your farm? What are the control measures you have put in place? Is it human intrusion that can cause you losses, or animal intrusion? So these kind of things you need to put in place to be able to ensure that after your crops have started growing or your poultry has started improving, you will not have intrusion, whether human or animal or pest. So those key areas needs to be looked into if you actually want to enjoy the business side of agriculture. Apart from that, if that is not done, that is why we have a bunch of farmers that are always complaining and are always running into losses, because that key sector of agriculture is not looked into. Now, when we are talking of any farmer, for example, that has gone to the extent of not using his personal funds to run his agricultural business, must ensure that the funds that is being used is able to return back to where he or she got them from. And that is why these measures are very important, because if it's personal funds and it is lost, you can count your losses. But anyone that has brought out his fund, maybe through a bank or through other donors or investors, needs to get their returns back, whichever way. So that is why these measures need to be taken into cognizance, and seriousness need to be attached to the business side of agriculture if we want to nurture it to profitability.
Okay, yes, there is need for seriousness and knowing the business you want to venture into when it comes to agriculture. Quickly, we'll take a break. On return, our guest is going to give us step by step, things to look at before we venture into a business in line of agriculture. Stay tuned. So much has been said. Our guest has cited example with some poultry business, poultry farming as one of those businesses that need so much care. I told you I also ventured into it, but I couldn't last months before I saw that I was running losses. And this, no doubt, is because there's no in-depth knowledge as to how the business runs. He has advised us that you should know what the business entails, know the do's and don'ts, look at your what is needed, your capital and everything, and ensure that these are things that you can easily stretch your hand to get before venturing into these businesses. We know that, of course, every business has risk, but then your risk shouldn't be higher than should I say, the profits or the opportunities in the business. Yes, sir. You've talked about poultry. I know this is one example that almost all households now have a poultry farm. Tell us, what are the step-by-step factors or things to look at when going into agribusiness of any kind?
Yes, when you are going into agribusiness, there are some key issues that need to be sorted out first. You need to look at the capital that you want to use to invest in the business. You need to look at the fertility of the land. You need to look at the source of fertilizers for your product if it is planting. You also need to look at the security of the land where the planting is going to take place and the receptiveness of the community. So when that is in place, then it will now come with the source of your seedlings. If it's planting, for example, the source is very important because yields are different and it also depends on location and region. There are some there are some seedlings that can do very well in the north but might not do well in the south. So you need to look at the source and the type of seedlings that they are being used in the geographical location that you are located. After that, then you need to look at the closeness of market, understanding of other farmers in that area to be able to see the farming practices that is being adopted there if it is planting. When you have understudied and seen the kind of farming practices they are using, the kind of irrigation system they have if there is, then you can now be able to successfully start yours. But when starting, some of the things that kill farmers is that they want to upstage the apple cart, in the sense that they want to upset the environment by not being cooperative with whatever is being met in that area. Because there are people that have started that farming in that area before you. You need to see how they run things there to be able to key in and be able to benefit from it. Some will say, no, now that I have come, I'm planting corn. And when my corn grows, my own bag of corn, I'm going to sell, because I want to sell it very fast. I'm going to sell it 500 naira or 1,000 naira cheaper than what others are selling it. At the end of the day, you are creating a room for sabotage for your crops by not understanding the practice of the community. The understanding of the practice of the community in the area where your products are is very, very important. Except you want to take your plant harvest to a different market entirely that will not have control over that community where you are in. But if you want to still enjoy the benefit of that community, then you must be able to have understanding of how that community runs to be able to have maximum benefit in line with how they do their business in that area. That is one. Two, for anyone that is going into agribusiness, for example, and has a large-scale production in mind, you must be able to have partnership and off-takers that will be able to help when you have a bumper harvest. For example, for someone that is into planting of corn, for example, such fellows should be able to approach poultry feed manufacturers that can be able to have a stake in the farm, so that at the end of the day, when those products, the farm harvests are coming out, he knows that off-takers are already on ground to be able to take it without incurring the cost and logistics of taking it to other markets and time value of money or when it's going to be sold. The other aspect is that for anyone that is envisaging a large-scale production of particular products, especially when it comes to perishables, you should also look at a long-term plan of branding, to the extent that you can now, how do I say now, for a tomato now, you can turn it to a tomato paste. You should have factories to be able to turn those that will lead, that are perishables, use them and improve on them, refine them to other products and be able to market them adequately. For those that are envisaging large scale production. But for those that are medium scale or small scale production, you must understand the dynamics of the environment where you are in and be able to key in to how things are being done there to your own benefit. And just like I said earlier, don't ever try to take short-time funds for long-term business. Agriculture is a long-term business that has various gestation periods. If you are planting corn, for example, corn has a gestation period of between 3 to 6 months for harvest. But that cannot be said of yam. The yam can get to 9 months. That cannot be said of rice. It could be longer. That cannot be said of other products like cassava, other products like groundnut, other products like before you even get to cocoa, that takes years. So you need to know the gestation period of the crops before you go for facilities from investors or banks in order not to run into losses. But first and foremost, you must have an understanding of the environment where your farm is, or if it is planting, if it's poultry, you must also have an understanding of the environment when you are situating the poultry farm or the pigsty or any other types.
Okay, yes, so much. Yes, you've really spoken about factors to be put in place. What are your words for farmers presently watching us and listening to what you said? What's your word for them?
Yes, I want to implore the farmers and let them know that this is their time. It cannot get better than this. Why? Because they are the most important people in the economy of Nigeria now. Why? Because they have what the people need. And when you have what the people need, it makes you an important factor in the ecosystem. So they should try and improve their trade, try and improve their products, and ensure that their products get to the market. When we talk of getting the products to be sold, is not negotiable. Any farm produce that comes out of any farm in Nigeria today can be adequately sold at a profit. So every farmer should ensure that they are up at their game, they are good in their research, and they ensure that they partner with the government to ensure food sustainability in this country.
Thank you so much for coming on the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, that's it. We've heard it, and I hope it's engaging, like I said, and it's educating. You have been able to get one or two things from what you said. The government has said everybody should go back to farm, and I hope that these tips will help you, help that farm you have at the back of your house thrive more. On this note, to say thank you for joining us on the program. Bye for now.